make sure it is going, and we're live. Okay. What's up? It's us.
Yo.
Back
on our bullshit.
Back for some more weaponized autism, I guess.
We should call that our web show if we ever get one.
Yeah, we should just start calling this streaming series Weaponized Autism.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fuck yeah. So welcome back to Weaponized Autism. I'm your host, today we're going to talk about my favorite John Carpenter movie of all time, Escape from New York, and its sequel, Escape from L.A. But before we get to that, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow... No, I'm just fucking with you.
Wait, what?
I was about to make a fake sponsorship plug. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Because that fucking ad isn't everywhere on YouTube all fucking ready.
Yeah, don't particularly care for that particular game, so...
I don't play...
But we can get a sponsor...
Sorry, what?
If we can get a sponsorship from Call of Duty Mobile, I'd be all for it, but fuck that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly taking Bobby Kotick's money.
Yeah, to hell with that.
Bobby Kotick can eat a dick. He can eat a refrigerator box full of dicks. That's a lot of dicks.
I mean, there was this thing a little while back I read where apparently you could, if you knew someone's address, you could send a bag of gummy candy shaped like tiny penises and say, "Eat a bag of dicks."
With my smart ass, I'd probably send it with a note written in like old timey English. I doth decree that thou must consume a satchel of Richards.
I take it that's the fancy word for dick.
Well, you know what's a nice way of calling somebody a dickhead? Richard Cranium.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, before we get into John Carpenter's escape films, I have a nice little, for the first time ever, a sneak preview at my next playthrough. So, my next playthrough is going to be on Die Hard Vendetta for the GameCube, since I'm still on my John McClane kick. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And the video is already fully edited. The full playthrough is about 3 hours and 40 minutes long. And so yeah, with that out of the way, I'd like to offer you a nice little sneak peek at it. With the opening cutscene and nothing else.
Man, you look awful. A little white wine and some food, and then a night at the opera.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Dick Thornburg reporting live for HEN, the Hollywood Entertainment Network, where show business is your business. It's a beautiful day in Los Angeles, and I can see the whole city from atop the Townsend Art Museum. Art patrons, city officials, and various other important LA personalities have gathered to witness this occasion. Piet Gruber, the son of the notorious criminal Hans Gruber, has returned to the city where his father met his demise. Piet, however, is here to return a painting recovered from one of his South American expeditions. Gruber maintains that this generous gesture is not a way to clear his family name, but an act of conscious art preservation.
Gruber!
Well, we're here at the presentation ceremony, which is just about to begin. Townsend curator Christoph von Leben is getting ready to speak to this excited crowd.
Look at my Lucy. First day on the job, following in her old man's footsteps.
Thank you all for joining us today as we return this wonderful work to its rightful place in the Townsend Art Museum. We've waited a long time to retrieve this piece, and we are so lucky that Mr. Piet Gruber rediscovered the Jock through his dealings in South America. We'll let Mr. Gruber do the honors as he unveils the Jock and hands it over to me as Townsend curator.
Okay, Buzz, get some shots of the guests. The more skin, the better, if you know what I mean. Wait a sec. Isn't that the fitness instructor guy over there? Frontier something or another. The guy with Gruber.
It is with great pleasure that I give to you the Jacques masterpiece, Lakeside Nymphs. I've been assured by Mr. von Leben that it will be rehung in its proper place and very well protected.
Sure you have.
But what about the thief that stole it? How were you able to obtain the painting so easily?
We are very close to the perpetrator of the crime. I can assure you that the culprit will be brought to justice.
What the?
What the hell was that? Hey, Buzz, are you getting this?
Nothing looks
Gunshots.
like GameCube.
Lucy!
Everyone remain calm. There's
Was
nothing to
also
be
on
alarmed
PS2
about.
and Xbox.
And I always thought art was boring. This is Dick
Not surprising.
Thornburg live, and what started out as a lovely summer day
This is
has
actually
erupted
on the
into a
lower
maelstrom
tier
of blood
of-
and bullets. Buzz, are you getting this? I am risking my life here.
This is actually on the lower tier of GameCube graphics. Like, that's definitely not the best the system has to offer. A while back I played the James Bond game Agent Under Fire, and it shits all over this game from a visual standpoint. By the way, I don't know the name of the voice actor, but it's the same guy. The guy playing McClane is the same guy who voices him in Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza.
For some reason, I thought it sounded like Steve Blum.
It almost does, like a very budget version of Steve Blum.
Hi, maggots!
I mean, I'm not familiar with his Call of Duty lines. I just know him as Spike from
Tank
Cowboy
Dem-
Bebop.
Yeah, he was also Tank Dempsey in Call of Duty Zombies.
Yep.
For over a decade.
Yep. That game also, Die Hard Vendetta also sees the return of Reggie Veljohnson as now Captain Al Powell. So,
Pretty much.
coming back to what is my favorite John Carpenter movie, Escape from New York. Which is surprising considering one of the films that I consider to be what defines my taste in cinema is Halloween, not Escape from New York. I mean, Halloween's great. I just happen to love Escape from New York more. I love the grungy, like, dystopian, semi-post-apocalyptic, almost... It's almost like a John Carpenter Death Wish movie, but like if you molded the original Death Wish with like the style and tone and grittiness of the original Death Wish with some of the more ridiculous aspects of the sequels, especially Death Wish 3.
Yeah.
Now, this movie was originally supposed to be John Carpenter's second film. He had written this in 1976. In fact, there's actually a quote from him further on down the page about... Yeah, that it was written in the aftermath of the Watergate scandal, with him saying, "The whole feeling of the nation was one of real cynicism about the president." Which is funny because, okay, I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of the Watergate scandal. I am the wrong guy to say anything about it. I'm sure there's plenty of video essayists on YouTube who have devoted like entire 3-hour-long live streams to chronicling the significance of Bernstein's jock itch or whatever. and how that somehow played a part in the uncovering of whatever scandal was going on, of whatever was happening with the Watergate Hotel.
Yeah.
I just know the way the president is portrayed in this movie, and let's just say, I don't know who's least effective, this guy or Joe Biden. I mean, probably Joe Biden because he has Alzheimer's.
Nancy Pelosi.
I mean, Donald Pleasance as the president in this movie is just kind of a doof.
Well, yeah, he shot him 6 times, so of course he's gonna go mad.
I shot him 6 times! I shot him in the heart!
Or the scene in Rob Zombie's Halloween where he's like, you have to wait 72 hours where you can take this pistol, and Loomis is probably like, I asked them 6 times! To wrap it up and so I can get out of there.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like this movie is less of and the thing is, I'm not a fan of post-apocalyptic movies. I'm not a fan of dystopian movies at all. This and Mad Max, and that's pretty much it for me. Like, no other, like, dystopian movie I've ever seen has ever really done anything for me outside of the Escape movies and the Mad Max films. And when you think about it, this is like dystopian sci-fi mixed with like a modern western. Which, I mean, this was coming in 81. This is when the American western was pretty much on life support. Like,
yeah, movies like this cut the cord.
Yeah, like, you in the mid '80s, yeah, you had Eastwood's Pale Rider, and then in the '90s you had Unforgiven and Tombstone, and Young Guns and Silverado in the '80s, but the Western genre was on life support, and then you have somebody like Kurt Russell's character in this movie, Snake Plissken, who it could almost be like a throwback to that type of character, just the lone badass with a name that isn't entirely his, or has no name at all in Eastwood's case. Which, I mean, this movie is Kurt Russell channeling Clint Eastwood so fucking hard, and it's amazing. Call me Snake.
Also, it's worth noting,
Call me Snake.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that Snake Plissken was a main inspiration for the main protagonist of the Metal Gear Solid series.
Yep. Because the whole crux of this, the main story of this movie is, you got your lone badass Snake rounded up by the government and sent into an isolated war zone to rescue the president and collect a data tape that is supposed to help strive off nuclear war or whatever. And it's like, gee, I wonder where Kojima got that from. Which, I mean, Hideo Kojima steals pretty much everything, especially in the 80s and 90s. Kojima was, and even well into the 2000s, Kojima was pretty much stealing everything from movies. Whether it was Metal Gear, like we're bringing up Solid Snake, Snake Plissken. I mean, hell, in Metal Gear Solid 2, there's a whole chunk of the game where Snake is posing as a Navy SEAL, and he goes by the name Iroquois Plissken.
Yeah, Kojima even going as far as to making a reference to the original Godzilla in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah. Fun fact, Kojima originally wanted Kurt Russell to voice Big Boss / Naked Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3. He did not want David Hayter playing Big Boss. And I think that would have actually worked out better because I think David Hayter just uses the same voice as for Snake across the games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the switch from him to Kiefer Sutherland in Metal Gear Solid 5 I think actually was the smart decision, even if his script might as well have been written on a bar tissue.
Yeah.
Although, in fairness, he had more dialogue in that game than Mickey Rourke had in Driver 3. I'm convinced Mickey Rourke's entire script for Driver 3 was written on a matchbook. Because he had like three or four lines in the entire game. Maybe. I know I can count on less than two hands how much dialogue, how many lines Mickey Rourke actually had.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Also, it's worth mentioning that in the early 2000s, an Escape from New York game was planned for the PS2 from the same people behind Dead to Rights, but of course, like all the other good shit, it got canned.
Yeah, which I'm actually going to bring that up for later use. Later use in the stream. Anyways. And an interesting fact about this movie, not only the movie actually was not filmed in New York City. The only scene we got of New York City in the entire movie was an exterior shot of the Statue of Liberty very early on. And the rest of the movie, it was either shot in like all the stuff with the U.S. the police state, because this movie is set in a world where the U.S. has become a police state, with Manhattan Island becoming a maximum security prison, an inescapable maximum security prison, with mines on the bridges leading out and armed patrols and helicopters patrolling the outer perimeter. Like any exterior shots of the actual city that we got were done with miniatures, which it saves you the money of having to rent a helicopter to do exterior shots of New York, especially if you're trying to make it look like this walled off shit show that has where electricity and gasoline are commodities, or luxuries instead of just bred into the system. All the stuff like early on in the movie when Snake has been arrested and he's being brought in through processing, all of that was shot at like some cornered off section, I think, of one of the airports in Los Angeles. Which, I mean, it's all night stuff and interior, so you can't really tell. But the meat of production, the bulk of production of how much of the movie was shot, all the inner like Manhattan stuff, all the exteriors were shot in actually in my neck of the woods in St. Louis.
Holy shit.
I mean, yeah, I live in Cape Girardeau, which is about a 90-minute drive from St. Louis, but I'm in Missouri. It fucking counts. It was actually like there was an entire section of the city in the late 70s to early 80s that had been like just like a massive fire had broken out and it had just demolished this entire corner of St. Louis, and so production was like, "Hey, let's just film in St. Louis." Give them credit, it was probably less expensive to shoot there than it would have been in actually filming in New York. Probably less dangerous too. Especially, and when I say expensive, I mean this is a $6 million movie, which is barely a fraction of the catering budget for a lot of movies today. This this movie was not made on, and yeah, this was from a time where movies you were allowed to spend peanuts on a movie and you could get something great. Which somebody I follow, Good Bad Flicks on Twitter, and he posted something recently that actually rings true of the present state of Hollywood, where it's like they would rather blow $200 million on a reboot nobody asked for than $5 million on an untested property.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how much of that money, unless we forget an additional like 2 to 300 million on marketing. So you have to pretty much graze the ball sack of the $1 billion mark just to break even.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about John Carpenter is he could take a budget he could take a significantly small budget and create something that you could actually enjoy and you could actually watch. You're not just sitting there waiting for the effects to kick in. You're sitting there and you're in. You're interested in whatever scenario he's presenting or whatever story he's presenting. And this was only the second movie that he had written. He had done a no budget. It was like a $50,000-$60,000 sci-fi movie prior to this called Dark Star, which I haven't seen. I've read a few things about. One of these days I'll get around to seeing it. But nobody would take this when he wrote it in '76. Nobody would take it. It was like, oh, it's too dark and it's too weird and it's too violent, and it's like, dude, this is 1976. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Dirty Harry, Death Wish, and Taxi Driver are a thing. I call bullshit.
I call bullshit on a lot of things.
I mean, there's violence in this movie. That's undeniable. But compared to some of the but the violence in this movie is nothing compared to that final shootout at the end of Taxi Driver. Like, I don't see Snake Plissken blowing half of a guy's hand up with a .44 Magnum anywhere in the movie.
Although it does sound like something Kurt Russell would do.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens every time Kurt Russell... that should just happen every time Kurt Russell gets haggled by paparazzi. Which, I mean... nobody will touch him because his mullet's woven out of Kevlar anyway.
Imagine all the celebrities that would just... Yeah, just imagine all the celebrities that would just, if paparazzi was bugging them, they would just seemingly pull a .44 Magnum out of their ass and just pull paparazzi's camera out of their hand.
Yeah.
Like, not even harming them, just completely destroying the fucking camera.
Exactly. It's like, damn it, that's the fifth camera we've had to supply you with, and it's not even 3 o'clock yet.
That's the fifth fucking camera.
Who the fuck keeps harming all these celebrities? It's like, well, sir, It's like, well, sir,
Second Amendment.
we're trying to talk to Kurt Russell. We tried to talk to Sylvester Stallone. We tried to talk to Keanu. God damn it! You're going after the wrong people.
Second Amendment, bitch. Hoorah.
It's like stop going after the action guys. Go after the Kardashians. What are they gonna do? Sit on you? Now I know why. Now I know.
That's Lizzo. That's Lizzo.
Oh. Now I know why we can't stop hearing about the Kardashians day in and day out.
Yeah. Hey, fun fact: if you download a picture of Lizzo to make a meme, your phone become your. Let's just say you will literally drop your phone and you can't pick it back up until you delete the photo.
I just remember Infinite Edge Intensity making a video on one of Tyrone the Fitness Addict's numerous protein shake videos, and he said something to the effect of, if I wanted to make a sickening tub of fat shake that I'd regret right away, I'd invite Lizzo to dance.
I'm sorry, I mean, Lizzo's got some good music, but she's fucking annoying, bro.
To my knowledge, I've never heard any of her music. All I know is every picture I've ever taken of her, I just immediately hear that guy from Deuce Bigelow. That's a huge bitch!
I mean, she's annoying, but at least she's not a bad person like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. Well, because Nicki Minaj, when she raps, she brags about being a slut, and well, Cardi B, you already know what Cardi B did. She admitted to drugging and robbing men to fund her career.
I feel like you have to have an IQ that doubles as a shoe size to appreciate the music of Cardi B and Nicki Minaj.
Cardi B makes music for girls who call collecting child support money moves.
You know what?
She also makes music for girls who shoplift from Dollar General.
Oh! I think I got a video that perfectly summarizes how I feel about that. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways. This being... So, with Carpenter unable to secure funding for this movie, he just kind of let the script sit in his desk a while. And in between that time, he was able to make Assault on Precinct 13. The good one, not that Ethan Hawke, Lawrence Fishburne bullshit. Was able to make Halloween. See also, the best slasher movie ever made. Fucking suck it. Yeah, Jason Voorhees can bite the veiniest part of my cock.
Oh, God. You did not just say that on a live stream.
Yes, I did.
Fuck it.
I mean, he's a fictional character, so... It's not like all the dumb shit Ethan Klein's been saying on his live streams, but moving on.
Yeah, when Kane Hodder's Jason Voorhees, that's another callback to what you said earlier. That's a huge bitch.
Yeah. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Jason Voorhees is just a Dollar General Michael Myers.
You know, his trademark look with the hockey mask, it took 3 movies before we got that iconic look we know him as today.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the killer in Friday. I was gonna say spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the Friday the 13th movies by now, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, Jason Voorhees was not the killer in the first one. It was his mother. And when she got decapitated, at the end of it all, Jason's zombified boy form jumped out and dragged the final girl into the lake. But turns out there was actually just a hallucination. And movie ends with her in the hospital. Then a year later, Friday the 13th Part 2 came out, and
Jason.
Long story short, she dies in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
With a freaking screwdriver to the head.
It's from Jason's Dr. Salvador from RE4 looking ass.
Yeah, he had a paper bag over his head.
He fucking, every time I look at him, I'm like, well, now I know where Dr. Salvador got his fashion sense from. And it turns out he was also a Leatherface fan, because instead of a machete, he used a chainsaw.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a Leatherface mod for Resident Evil 4.
It wouldn't surprise me if there was. But, between doing Dark Star and Escape from New York, we had Assault on Precinct 13, we had Halloween, we had The Fog, which I still have not seen. I've got the Blu-ray for it on my shelf, but I still haven't watched it yet. And, a TV movie about Elvis Presley, which was the first of 5 collaborations between John Carpenter and Kurt Russell.
Oh, yeah.
And after Elvis is when Carpenter decided to dig up his script for Escape from New York, because now he had several successful movies under his belt. He had something resembling Hollywood clout, and managed to enlist the help of his friend Nick Castle, the OG Michael Myers, to help him write out the script. Basically, Nick Castle took Carpenter's original script and livened it up a little bit, gave it a little more humor, where mostly from the addition of Ernest Borgnine's character, Cabby. See also my favorite character in Escape from New York. But then you also add in Lee Van Cleef, a character who was famous for an actor who was famous for doing westerns. He's in my favorite entry of the Sergio Leone Dollars trilogy, For a Few Dollars More. Yeah. For a Few Dollars More, way better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Suck it. Isaac Hayes, chef from South Park, as the Duke of New York. The closest this movie has to an actual villain. A guy with a very colorful car and an even more colorful dress sense. And anybody who's played Duke Nukem Forever might remember the line, "I am the Duke. I am A number 1." If you watch this movie, you'll know where he got that line from, since Duke Nukem steals a lot of movie quotes. It was in this movie. "You are the Duke of New York. You're A number 1.
I'll rip your head off and shit down your neck.
Oh.
That was a shitty impression.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I do that good of a Duke Nukem impression, but I think mine was still better. Don't have time to play with myself.
Ugh.
Yeah, this is not a DSP stream, so...
If you're easily offended, you can easily just click off.
Yeah, I am not Darkside Phil. This is not that kind of stream. Yeah, I can't be Darkside Phil because I happen to be fatally allergic to e-begging.
Obviously, a lot of these girls on social media are not. And it's like, I'm sorry, social media is not a job.
No. But along with Isaac Hayes,
like you're not making money. You're literally just taking money from people who think they're gonna get lucky with you, but no, you're just taking their money.
yeah. I used to have a roommate who was like that, and it's like, well, shit, dude. I wonder why I have to move somewhere else and you're getting evicted. It's like well, joke's on you. I pay my shit.
Yeah, so do I.
It's like, I'm not the one blowing my rent on some whore from the East Coast. Anyways.
I was gonna say Decatur, Illinois, but that works too.
Yeah. But anyways. Every time I say anyways, I'm just going to bring up this clip of Ian McShane in Deadwood. Anyways. Post blowjob Ian McShane.
Is that the one where it goes, "Fuck you, sir"?
Yes, that show.
Fuck you, sir.
Fuck you, sir. But alongside Isaac Hayes, we also have Harry Dean Stanton in this movie as the Brain, which of course he's this really skinny, really scrawny sort of guy's a walking twig. Which, I mean, it's Harry Dean Stanton. Every movie I've ever seen him in, I don't think the guy has ever had meat on his bones. Everything I've ever seen of him, past, present, and, may he rest in peace, he always looks like a walking skeleton to me. But along with Harry Dean Stanton, we have the OG, well, not the OG, but the Batman the Animated Series Catwoman, Adrienne Barbeau, as Harry Dean Stanton, the Brain's floozy, his squeeze. Which, I mean, for the 1970s, for the late 70s, early 80s, you got a pretty, only on a $6 million budget, you got a pretty decent ensemble there. Which, I mean, nowadays, you get that kind of star power, that would cost you $150 million easily. Not even for, which, I mean, movies nowadays aren't even sold on star power, they're sold on brand recognition. Which when I posted that poll recently, Tarantino said nothing wrong. That's what he was talking about. With this movie, I mean, how many people went to see this movie to see a John Carpenter movie? Because, this is after Assault on Precinct 13 and Halloween in the Fog. People knew John Carpenter by now. People knew his name at this point. And it was like, hey, what is this guy going to do? What is this guy going to direct next? You have Kurt Russell, who who throughout the 70s was Disney's golden boy. He starred in so many Disney movies. He was like their golden goose. And then around the late 70s, he wanted to break out of that mold, which is why he started in Elvis with John Carpenter and why he signed on to do this, even though the producers wanted Charles Bronson to play Snake Plissken, which, just think about how different that character would have been if it was Charles Bronson. I mean, I love Bronson, but I don't know if I could picture him playing Snake Plissken with the eye patch and everything. Call me Snake. His voice just doesn't fit that mold. The name's Plissken. I mean, I like Kurt Russell's approach to it more, where it was more like, it was like his approach to it was kind of like, you know, how would Clint Eastwood approach this type of character, where he's very soft-spoken, man of few words, and when he does speak, he actually makes it count, even if it is just a hint of sarcasm, like his infiltration into the island on that glider. He's like, Plissken, what are you doing? Playing with myself.
Oh, Lord.
I don't give a fuck about your war or your president. Every line out of Kurt Russell's mouth in this movie spontaneously causes the beard on your dick to grow a beard on its dick.
Oh, Lord.
It's just pure late 70s, early 80s machismo, which is the kind of shit that I live for. I love masculine bullshit like that. I don't know why, other than it's actually entertaining. And now my dog wants to lip off at the neighbors again. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's one of the downsides of doing this live, but anyways.
Hey, we already gave people a warning. It's on them if they keep watching.
Yeah, this movie is just... I feel like it's a proper blend of... Like when Marvel tries to be when Marvel tries to be serious and then incorporate humor in, it always feels forced. It's never natural. This movie, it knows when to be light and when to crank up the darkness, the dystopian feel. It knows when to, and largely because Carpenter is a guy who actually knows what the fuck he's doing. You know, he's a guy who knows when to go hard and when to pull back, which is something that Marvel directors just don't understand, largely because they're not directing the movie. Kevin Feige is directing the movie. They're just there to set up the shots and call it a day.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I feel like this movie is... If I were to make a list of my personal favorite 1980s action movies, this would definitely be in the top 5. It's not going to beat out the holy trinity of 80s action, which is Commando, Die Hard, and First Blood. But it would definitely be in the top 5 for me. Now, as far as 90s movies are concerned, Escape from LA, which I do love, probably wouldn't fall into one of my personal favorite movies of the 90s. Because this movie feels less like a sequel to Escape from New York and more like a parody of macho 80s and 90s action films, if that makes any sense, because there's a lot of action sequences in this movie where it feels like they are deliberately ripping at the ridiculousness of a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s up to 1996 when this movie was released.
Oh yeah.
Largely, like, not even just the, like, even a parody of post-apocalyptic or dystopian movies, with how wild and wacky some of the characters that Snake encounters in Escape from L.A. are. Like, the one that immediately sticks out being Bruce Campbell's plastic surgeon character. It's like, ooh, I can't do anything with him. And it's like, Bruce, have you seen your face lately? You make
Not so groovy.
Sorry, what?
I said not so groovy.
No, not at all. Evil Ash in Evil Dead 2 looked better than plastic surgeon Bruce Campbell. Hell.
Groovy. Not. And you smack them on the back of their head for even thinking it.
Oh. Yeah, like, Jesus, dude. He looks like, I don't know how to describe that look. It almost doesn't, it actually doesn't work with his chin. That very pronounced Bruce Campbell chin that he has.
That's probably the most accurate thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, see also the greatest chin of all time. I'm not even joking. Bruce Campbell has a magnificent chin. And now here's where I get to do my Christian Slater and True Romance impersonation. I mean, I'm not gay or anything, but if I had to fuck a chin, I mean had to, like my life depended on it, I'd fuck Bruce Campbell's chin.
Christ almighty.
Sad thing is, I'm completely sober saying this.
Oof.
Like, that's a look that would make Nancy Pelosi's plastic surgeon throw himself out of a window. Yeah. And there's enough plastic in her face to fuel Hasbro for the next 5 years.
Christ almighty.
Sorry, not sorry!
Better not, because if people get offended, then what's the word we say? Oh yeah, bug them.
Exactly. Fuggum. Bug them.
Bug them.
On top of Bruce Campbell, you've got Pam Grier playing an old associate of Snake's who used to be a man and still has a very still has a very masculine voice.
Oh yeah.
This is Pam Grier. I mean, this is a year before Jackie Brown, by the way. So think about that. Pam Grier from 1 year to the next, working with two of arguably the best directors Hollywood's had in the last half century, John Carpenter and Quentin Tarantino. Then you got Stacy Keach filling in for Lee Van Cleef, because unfortunately Lee Van Cleef is not immortal.
Yeah, no shit.
You got Steve Buscemi filling in for Ernest Borgnine, except much more scummy. Because, let's be real, Ernest Borgnine's character, Cabby, in the first movie, he was actually an alright guy. He was a really decent guy. Steve Buscemi, like, if this movie were set in the Old West, I could easily see him being a snake oil salesman.
Oh yeah.
He would be that guy in Red Dead Redemption, and I haven't played that game in so long, I actually forgot that character's name. That guy who you occasionally have to help, and he's just selling what nowadays amounts to essential oils.
Oh yeah.
If that character were around today, he would be promoting an MLM scheme. on Facebook, and he would be selling it to gullible suburban housewives in their 60s.
Sounds about right.
And then you got Peter Fonda, who I'm blanking on. Okay, I thought maybe he was the president. He was not the president. No, the president of this movie was one Cliff Robertson, which, according to Carpenter, yeah, this is one of those movies where Carpenter shares a writing credit with Deborah Hill and Kurt Russell. Yeah, Kurt Russell actually contributed to the script of this movie, with his contributions being the president character, who is it just me, or is he basically a televangelist?
Probably.
Because he's basically just like not even a semi relatable televangelist. I'm talking like the Kenneth Copeland type of televangelist. The kind of guy who you would see, like, it wouldn't be that hard to see him running the Westboro Baptist Church. Just the most extreme example of the I can't even find the right words. The most extreme example of the anti-fun Christian stereotype.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell are both libertarians, so them jabbing at the government, them jabbing at incompetent boobs in one movie and authoritarian shit kickers in the next is perfectly reasonable.
I mean, government's always been corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's that old expression? Power corrupts.
Ooh.
Yeah. And like Escape from New York, having a MacGuffin for Snake to come and find, in this movie, Snake, instead of trying to save the worthless president, Snake has to go into L.A., or what's left of it after a massive earthquake, to find the president's daughter and Ace, who has apparently fallen in with this Che Guevara type of revolutionary militant, and a code switch that she has, which is, it's like you enter this code and it activates this EMP satellite in orbit, and it just shuts out all the power for this one specific area of the world. Or, in the case of the film's ending, well, that's a spoiler alert, but let's just say it could possibly shut down all the power on planet Earth. Which, is it not the most metal thing on the planet that the code to shut down the entire planet is literally 666?
Where do I enter it then?
I mean,
that's how I feel about social media sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder what the code is for just the state of California. Yeah, I say let California just kind of, not even just Los Angeles, but just let the entirety of Southern California just be its own self-contained province. Or give it back to Mexico. Either or. If it ever belonged to Mexico in the first place. I don't know. I know Texas did at one point, but I don't think... California, maybe, maybe not. Yeah. This is the American education system at its finest, folks.
Yeah, why do you think I never went to college?
I did one semester of community college, decided this ain't for me, never went back. Anyways.
It's one of those, that's a no for me, dog kind of things.
Yeah, that's kind of a fuck you. Anyways. Escape from New York, while that movie actually did use a good chunk of practical effects, and John Carpenter is very much an all-in for practical effects guy, or do your effects as practically as possible. Escape from LA has a handful of scenes where there's some extremely sketchy CGI in it. Like, it's not quite more like when you think of movies with really like laughably awful CGI, you think like, especially in the 90s and in the early 2000s, you think of like Mortal Kombat Annihilation had atrocious CG scenes. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, the Megazord battle in the film's climax was laughably awful with its visuals. This movie is on par with that, and unfortunately, it's largely because the movie was actually released for distribution before the CGI was finished. Like in this movie, it's like a barely a pre-render. The CG scenes that are in this movie, and they were being handled by a visual effects house, which was just getting used to the idea of using CGI, and they had barely it was sent out before they could finish the movie, and the distributors, which the hell distributed this movie anyway. Paramount Pictures. Well, fuck you, Paramount.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, we can't show footage from your movies when we do reviews or you'll copyright claim them, and you can't be bothered to let your director finish his goddamn visual effects before he sends it out to distribution. Fuck you very much. Unfortunately, because of the sketchy CGI, because of the movie being this wacky parody of, in this movie there's a scene where Snake Plissken has to shoot hoops to keep from getting killed, whereas in the first movie, it was a gladiator battle to the death.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that was like, I was just like, are you for real with this shit?
I just dropped the ball because, you know what? I'm dead. Just shoot me.
Yeah.
I can't shoot hoops to save my fucking life.
But he's Kurt Russell, so whatever. And there's that scene where he has to literally surf down Hollywood Boulevard right into Steve Buscemi's car. There's the scene with Bruce Campbell's character. There's the thing with Pam Grier's character. There's the climax of the movie that starts with a raid on a hang glider. On hang gliders. And I'll never forget Razor Fist saying, when he did his video on Escape from LA, and him saying, one of these days I will own a physical copy of the Escape from LA script because I have to see Kurt Russell riding a hang glider, wielding an Uzi, printed on paper. In all fairness, that has to be badass to see on paper.
Oh yeah.
All that ridiculousness, and then the movie ending the way it does, which is Snake has the device, and he uses the Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall trick of, oh, you think you just shot me? Oh, it's actually a hologram. And punches in the code to completely EMP the entire planet.
Seriously, who the fuck thought that would be a good idea?
A very, very stupid president.
So and to this day we're still dealing with one.
Yeah. Well, he's not the one running the show. I'm 99.5% positive that Biden's wife is the one running the show, not him. Kind of like how in his second term, Woodrow Wilson had a massive stroke, and one that was so bad that it actually left him bedridden and unable to perform his presidential duties, and so his wife and his cabinet pretty much lied to the American public and still made it like he was still running the country when actually she was. Something like that, except Woodrow Wilson had a stroke and Joe Biden just has Alzheimer's.
Is it that obvious?
I mean, it is to anybody who has eyes and an IQ north of their shoe size. Anyways. So, after this movie came out, some development on a Snake Plissken video game had started up, which you had brought up earlier. Which, hats off to Neo Gamer, the video game archive, for this footage. And like you said, this looks like, this is some of the earliest footage we had of a possible Snake Plissken video game. This was going to be called Snake Plissken's First Escape. This reeks of just test footage that they came up with, just as like a proof of concept. Like, hey, we've got this cool idea for a Snake Plissken game. So they just kind of modded him over. Okay, now I'm blanking on the Jack Slate. They just modded him over Jack Slate's character model in Dead to Rights.
Literally, it looks like a modded version of that game.
It does, but like you said, those were. Yeah, this seems more like a proof of concept than. Now, later on in the video, they actually have, like, more original, clearly original, assets in mind. Right here, we actually have a pre-rendered cutscene.
Oh yeah.
I guess the Earth is a little worse for wear by now.
Yep.
So I guess Snake was long gone in that opening.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. from what I understand, this game was set to be released, but Deborah Hill's passing in the mid late 2000s may or may not have contributed to them pulling the plug on it entirely, which is a real shame. In both cases, it's a shame that the game had to be canceled, and it's really a shame that she had passed.
For sure, man.
How awesome would it have been to actually see Kurt Russell in the 1980s doing that Van Damme helicopter spin kick? A lot of the moves he's doing still look like they were ripped out of Dead to Rights, even though this is now original environments. He still has the Jack Slate poses. And now we got some Splinter Cell bullshit.
I can see it.
I wonder if the if there is a playable build of this on the internet somewhere, because I know the original the game that I'm going to be uploading my playthrough of for Monday, Die Hard Vendetta, it originated as a Die Hard game on the Nintendo 64. It was literally called Die Hard 64, but around early on in development, it was sent off to... It was repurposed to to development on next-gen consoles. And there is a playable build of Die Hard 64 out there. So I wonder if there is a playable build of Plissken's First Escape somewhere out there on the internet, and if there is, goddamn, I'd love to play it for the channel. Or Snake Plissken's Escape, not Plissken's First Escape. You know, Kurt Russell actually was supposed to come back as Snake Plissken, and the game was going to be written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, I believe. So,
and unfortunately, lost Deborah Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, now it's going to the storyboards and all that, which... I'm not really interested in that. Now, one last topic that we should touch on is that John Carpenter has recently it has recently started floating the idea of returning to the director's seat. And I know one of the movies he has talked about really wanting to make is he wants to make a film adaptation of Dead Space, which, if anybody can make a Dead Space movie, it's John fucking Carpenter.
I can see it.
Although, with the exception of The Thing, he's not really a gore hound. He's not really a gorehouse director. He's not he's not on the same level as like Sam Raimi with his first two Evil Dead movies, or George Romero, at least with Dawn of the Dead and especially Day of the Dead. So and with Dead Space, you have to make a gore. You have to make a real like gore showcase with a Dead Space movie. So, and Carpenter's one of those guys who usually likes to keep the horrors hidden, like obscured by shadows or obstruction of the camera, or just with the way the camera is placed. he's not a guy who really goes all in on all that Tom Savini, Greg Nicotero, blood and guts goodness that you'd want from a Dead Space movie. I mean, I would watch it. I would watch it anyway because it's a John Carpenter movie, and I know Kurt Russell has said that he wants to be in John Carpenter's Dead Space movie as well.
I say they better go for an R-rated version, because if not, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, I don't think John Carpenter has ever done, if he has done anything below an R rating, the only movie I can think of off the top of my head is Big Trouble in Little China, which was PG-13, but that was 1986 PG-13, not the pussy-ass post-2004 PG-13 we have now. I mean, and Elvis was a TV movie, so obviously that he wasn't allowed to go as hard on that as he probably could have. But the other thing Carpenter has talked about wanting to do is making a third Escape film, Escape from Planet Earth, basically. And I'm not sure I necessarily have the same feeling about that. I feel like the next... I mean, we look at Escape from New York. It was this really dystopian action. At some parts, it could almost be classified as a horror film, especially the scene where he's being chased by the crazies, up and down, up back alleys and through apartment complexes and all that. Escape from L.A., still very much a dystopian action film, more or less more comedic, much more comedic, since it's more or less spoofing a lot of the tropes that you would get from these post-apocalyptic movies and overly machismo 80s and 90s action films. I feel like the next movie, it should almost be it should almost be a subtle spoof at all these belated sequels that we are getting a lot of now, where the formula that you have with a lot of these late sequels is, you have the legacy characters and they're basically sidelined to make room for these new characters who have the personality of a wet sock.
Ugh.
9 times out of 10, it's a female character, because Hollywood hasn't figured out yet that this isn't the 90s anymore and girl power doesn't sell films. You could I feel like, and especially a lot of these late sequels now, they almost feel like they have this incessant desire to just deconstruct the movies of old and deconstruct characters of old, which I just don't go for, because it's like, let us have our fucking heroes, man. Let heroes be heroes. They don't have to all have this Chris Nolan existential cunt wash about them. Which, by the way, the Dark Knight movies are beyond overrated, but that's another rant.
Yeah, for another video.
Yeah. Probably another stream, too.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the third movie should really... because of Kurt Russell's age, which I believe he is in his 70s now. Yeah, 71. He turned 71 this year.
So Michael Keaton and Mark Hamill.
Yeah. I feel like with Kurt Russell's age, if we're going to be... you could really, really play with the idea of Snake being this old warrior in a lawless world. This would be after Escape from L.A. electricity and technology is slowly, steadily coming back. There are still many pockets of the world where it's just non-existent. And you could have Snake still be the character he's always been, the one-eyed outlaw. And you could have you could actually have an excuse to you maybe could give him an offspring character, but not completely sideline Snake to make room for the new character, which is what a lot of these late sequels are doing now. Just trying to force us to accept new characters that we don't give a fuck about. You could have that. You could have that constant butting heads between Kurt Russell and. I would go with casting his son Wyatt as the young as Plissken Jr. You can get away with that. I mean, the first Tomb Raider movie got away with that when they cast Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft and Jon Voight, her real life father, as Lara Croft's father.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Kiefer Sutherland and his father Donald Sutherland have done at least one or two movies together. Will Smith has obviously done a couple movies with his son Jaden. You could do something like that where they're constantly. You could really poke fun at. Now, exactly how you would go about that, I'm not totally sure. You could poke fun at how blatantly over obsessed with brand recognition movies are. You could really play around with the expectations of a sequel to a movie from years ago. But knowing John Carpenter is not very in your face about it, which is something I love about when he pokes at things like Escape from LA as a very clever parody of 80s and 90s action movies and dystopian post-apocalyptic sci-fi. Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell's character, who in any other movie, Jack Burton would be the supporting character. He is not the main character of Big Trouble in Little China's story, but he is the main character of the movie. He's the sidekick character, but he's the character we spend the most time with. In any other movie, he would be the sidekick, and I love that about the movie. And I think that's what people love about that movie as well. You could do something like that with Wyatt Russell's character, where he is in if anybody else handling that in a third Escape movie, Wyatt Russell would be the main character, Snake Plissken would be sidelined, but it's John Carpenter, so Wyatt Russell, despite his character's stubborn insistence to be the main character of the story, he never will be. It will still be Snake Plissken. That's kind of what I want to see in the third movie.
Yeah, I can see it.
And you could also make fun of how over-reliant on visual effects a lot of movies are. Now, just poke at how centralized the film industry has become now, how overly planned a lot of movies have become, because nowadays most movies, all the big action scenes are already planned out before a director's even been hired to do them. So it's like It's like you're basically hiring two DPs. You've got the DP, and then you've got the guy who's supposed to be directing the movie, but he's just there to set up shots and shoot all the boring shit, and then we'll just let second unit handle all the big action sequences. And it's like, no, fuck you. Just give John Carpenter $40 million to completely make fun of how bullshit that approach is and how stagnant it has made the film industry. And again, because he's John Carpenter, he's not going to just shove it in your face. He's going to be completely subtle about it, and he's going to make you not realize that you actually are watching a parody. Because a lot of people don't like Escape from LA because they don't realize it's a parody. There a lot of the main complaints I've seen about Escape from LA is that it's how it's so goofy and so like the tone is so different from Escape from New York. But it's like, that's the point. It's not bad on purpose. It's a parody without being so outward about it. You know, like John McTiernan's Last Action Hero with Schwarzenegger, or to an even more subtle extent, James Cameron's True Lies, also with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, just deliberately poking fun at all the tropes we know and love, and at the same time reveling in it and celebrating it. You know, that could be the next Escape film. Escape from Las Vegas. That's what I want to see. And then you add
Imagine that.
And then
Imagine that on Monday.
Dude, I would be there day fucking one to see that. But, you know, I mean, John Carpenter's not getting any younger. He's 74 now. He'll be turning 75 here very, very, very soon. So, I mean, he's not committed to Halloween anymore. Now that David Gordon Green has finished his Halloween trilogy and is now moving on to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And no, if he does return to directing before he passes, God, I want to see what this guy could come up with, and I want to be there first day to just appreciate it all. Because goddamn, the modern film industry needs John Carpenter right now. But anyways, do you have anything you would like to add? Because I feel like I've been the one getting the most mileage out of this conversation.
I just think it would have been great if we didn't have to go live life without getting that Snake Plissken game.
Yeah. Yeah, God knows that would have been awesome to play. But on that note, this has been yet another edition of Weaponized Autism.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us. Take care, and the name's Plissken.